Okay, to get started you need to unscrew the black cap at the back of the steam box. That is the water reservoir that you need to fill up before you turn the machine on. Basically, if you fill that up first, you can flick the machine on and it will give the machine time to heat that water while you're preparing the other stuff. Just flicking that machine on down there. It's just a single switch on the left hand side. Just make sure that the retractable arm for that bladder is going out the right way, especially in a 45-degree angle. And you want to feed the components of the bladder underneath that. You can see there's the cord, steam in and condensate out components for the heads there. Just feeding that cord through. You can see it's got O-rings and backing nuts to stop the air leaking through as much as possible. Just poke it through a little bit there, you get your O-ring and your nut on. Save you feeding it all the way through the cord. It's a good idea to lubricate that those cords in the steam line. Just makes it a little bit easier when that arm starts expanding up your junction. Just give it a nip up. Steam through there, the O-ring on and the backing nut. As you pull them through, just make sure they don't get tangled, obviously. Sometimes they can kink. Feed some elastic bands over each end. When you're tightening your bladder onto the heads, it's a good idea to pinch it either side and rotate them in the opposite direction, just so you know that when the bladder does expand, it does so concentrically, so it doesn't come up sort of lopsided. And just use that elastic band there to hold it in place, so you can go and get your duct tape and secure it properly. Just make sure as well that it's even around all the edges there. You don't want it sticking out in some parts and not in others. Just tape over it, just extra protection there. Always fold the end over and mark it with a black pen, that way it's easier to come back to and find when you after you take your clamp off at a later date. Put your clamp on and nip it up. Also, when you're tightening that up, it's a good idea to sort of line that top of that clamp up with your actual junction. It just gives you a little point of reference. You can see there, I'm just cutting back that bladder. If you leave it too long, it can protrude, it can grow past the head when it's expanding, so it's not really ideal. So just repeat that process at the other end as well. Connect that steam line there into your larger coil, which then plugs into the steam unit. The blue condensate hose goes into your condensation gauge, and then the other end of that goes straight into your backer. switch there is your air in, those two are your suction. So turn the air in on and wind the knob out to about 0.2, let a bit of air in. As you can see there, that's being lubricated, so it's pulling that, just makes it easier for that line to come up as it retracts. You can see the air filling that bladder now. Just give it a squeeze if you need to, it helps it come through. That bladder's obviously been used before, which is fine, but if you've got no leaks, just tape it up. This will just protect the actual clamps and the heads from resin. Do that little trick, double it over, mark it with your pen, just make it easy to come back to. Just marking the centre there, you'll see I'll do that a fair bit. It basically gives you a line of reference, so when you're actually looking down your pipe through your junction, you can actually see those lines through your camera, and it gives you a point to line up. I'm doing it again there. It's a good habit to get into. You can also see there Max marking on the felt a couple of lines there, which is the centre of the junction. That's basically again to just give you that point of reference when you're watching it come through the junction. If you just mark the actual length of the felt onto your bladder, you'll see why when we actually impregnate that liner and pull it over your bladder, it gives you a better idea of where it exactly has to go to, because sometimes you can lose track of it when that junction's actually retracted into the bladder. Just be generous with your lubricant. Turn your air off, and then one of you has to pull on that cord to retract it while the other one sort of feeds it in. The guy pulling should do most of the work here. The guy at the top is there to guide it in. Once it's in, you can put it on vacuum, and that will suck it down. Just move that packer out of the way now. Just mark the outline of your felt, a bit of plastic. If you're using the RR resin, it's got a couple of little lugs on the side which you can remove first. You can see there it's actually made of two components. You've got your resin in the bottom and you've got your hardener in the top. Obviously when you combine those two, it starts setting, so that's when you tip the clock starts. You actually whack a chisel straight through there, as you can see, and it'll drain into the bottom component. If you're using Bravo 1, here's the formula for it. So that's for 1 metre of liner. You can see the componentry there. That's just gone straight through, drained into the bottom one. Just mix it thoroughly. Spending a couple of minutes on that. So yeah, just pouring on that outline. So that way there, it just sort of soaks in while you're massaging the top as well. Just make sure you massage that right in. The good way to check is if you fold the ends back, and if you can see any white in there, then you haven't done it enough. So yeah, they're checking now for the greens. It's green inside there, yeah. So slide your packer on, see that line, so you can line your packer up with it, so you know how far to go. Put your air on now, putting a bit of air back in there. You can see it expanding up that branch arm. So now we're going to do the same process, we're going to invert it, but with a liner on it this time. So that air will go off. You can see that's your point of reference, see how everything's lining up there. You'll see how that comes into play a bit later. So Mac Bear's pulling that in, I'm just feeding it in slowly to him. He's doing all the work there now. You want to make sure there's air actually in that line while you do that, otherwise it won't have any resistance when you're pulling on it and it just doesn't work properly. So that's why you don't put the suction on until that junction's actually down. You can see now that the suction's been turned on there, and we're folding it underneath itself so that you can still see those points of reference. See how they line up there, kind of. Don't double these elastic bands over. They do sometimes tend to scrunch if you do that. It doesn't give you the desired outcome. It gives you like a ripple effect almost in the pipe, so just be careful when you do that. Keep in mind that junction actually it's retracted into that bladder, the horn side of it will actually hold it in place. Just clear a bit of the resin off there so you can see those points of reference. So it's sort of inside the pipe now, obviously. You can see there that line on the edge of the pipe. And as it pushes through, you'll see the next one, which is there. Just makes it easy for you. The beauty of having elastic bands on there as well is you can expand and retract it, and it will go back into place to a certain extent. So once that's lined up, you can start putting a bit of air in. Once that's lined up there, you can start inflating, putting some air in, and you may need to just adjust that, pull it into place a little bit as you do. That there is obviously your steam, and that dial there controls the temperature coming in. So as you adjust that, you'll be able to read it on that little monitor there. So you turn that switch on the right hand side and then you adjust the temperature with that dial. That dial there is your air in, so I'm turning that pressure up now. In this instance we're doing it to 0.8 of a bar, which is 80 kPa. We've got our outlet pressure on that gauge there reading 0.4 of a bar, which is 40 kPa. So that there will give you circulation through your bladder. You can see there's the temperature starting to climb now. And that will probably go up to 65, yep. So An hour and 45 minutes later, we can turn the steam off and turn that dial down. So that's basically going to start circulating cooler air now. You can see that the pressure still stay the same. And then after half an hour of doing that, you are good to turn your air off and pull your bladder out. So just wind the pressure back a bit there. Just makes it easier for you to pull it, retract it. You can see how I've got that cord. As I pull that cord, it pulls it back into the bladder. They can be a little bit tough, they can get jammed too, so sometimes you've got to pull on them pretty tight. But so now that junction's all the way down, we'll turn the suction on. Putting that suction on, we'll peel it off the wall of the inside of the pipe to a degree. That one came out easily. They don't all come out that easily. Sometimes you need to give it a good pull. You'll often have an eel cable connected on the back there. So. And there you go, it came out pretty well. That's a pretty good result. That's it, well done. Now it's your turn.